2:11 a.m. Persian Gulf, May 25, 2026. Persian Gulf, May 25, 2026. There is no moon. The water south of Larak Island is black, the surface unmarked by any visible wake. On the radar screen of a U.S. Navy patrol aircraft orbiting at altitude, the strait looks quiet. The ceasefire has technically been in effect since April 8th. Negotiations are ongoing in Qatar. An Iranian delegation is reportedly finalizing a framework agreement. The diplomatic machinery is running. And in that gap, in that assumption of pause, 2 IRGC naval vessels slip out from the northern coastline and begin moving south. 02:14 a.m. The contacts appear at the edge of radar coverage. Small hulls, low profile. Moving slowly, deliberately, without AIS transponders. Their course is not toward any merchant vessel. It is not toward a patrol zone boundary. They are heading toward the center of the transit lane. The lane that 24 hours ago carried the last commercial vessels brave enough to attempt a Hormuz crossing. The radar operator watches the contacts for 90 seconds, then marks them and passes the classification. IRGC mine-laying configuration, bearing 188, speed 4 knots. 4 knots is a working speed, a deployment speed. These boats are not transiting. They are placing something in the water. 02:17 a.m. Naval mines have been a constant threat in the Strait of Hormuz since March. U.S. forces destroyed 16 IRGC mine-laying boats in the first weeks of Operation Epic Fury. But the tactic never stopped. It adapted. Smaller boats, shallower water, shorter deployments. The mines themselves are contact-armed, tethered just below the surface, invisible to commercial vessels until impact. A single mine in the central transit lane does not need to sink a ship. It needs to detonate close enough to close the lane entirely, to push the already minimal shipping traffic to zero, to hand Iran a stranglehold over the world's most critical oil choke point without firing a single missile. 2:19 a.m. At 2:19 a.m., U.S. Central Command authorizes a self-defense strike. The authorization does not require a new threat assessment. It does not require an emergency session. The IRGC boats are actively laying mines in international waters, in a lane used by U.S. naval vessels operating under Project Freedom. That is a threat to U.S. forces. That threshold, under existing rules of engagement, is sufficient. 2:22 a.m. The strike platforms are already airborne. MQ-9 Reaper drones have been conducting armed patrol missions over the strait continuously since the blockade began on April 13th. They fly at altitude. They carry AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. Their optical sensors can resolve hull numbers from 25,000 feet in near-total darkness. By 2:22 a.m., the lead Reaper has established a targeting solution on the first IRGC vessel. The boat is stationary. The crew is on deck. The mine deployment is in progress. No warning is issued. Under the rules of engagement, none is required. 02:23 a.m. The first Hellfire leaves the rail at 02:23:04 a.m. and impacts at 02:23:19 a.m. 15 seconds of flight time. The IRGC vessel is destroyed immediately. The blast is visible on optical sensors as a brief white flare against the black water, followed by secondary detonations as the onboard ordnance cooks off. The second boat breaks away, accelerating northeast toward the Iranian coastline. It does not escape. A second Hellfire is already tracking. Impact at 02:23:47 a.m. The boat is disabled, losing power, drifting. Iranian media will report at least 3 casualties in the hours that follow. 2:26 a.m. 70 kilometers to the northwest, In the city of Bandar Abbas, a surface-to-air missile battery operated by the IRGC activates its fire control radar. This is the same site that has been tracking American aircraft operating over the strait for the past week. It has illuminated U.S. drones and fighters repeatedly without firing, a form of electronic harassment designed to force aircraft to maneuver and break their surveillance patterns. Tonight, with the smoke still rising from the destroyed mine layers, the radar locks. CENTCOM logs the emission. The battery in Bandar Abbas is now both an active threat and a confirmed hostile act. 02:31 a.m. The strike on Bandar Abbas is authorized at 02:31 a.m. CENTCOM's statement the following morning will describe it in 9 words: missile launch sites and boats attempting to emplace mines. What the statement will not describe is the precision required to hit a SAM site inside an Iranian port city, 70 kilometers from the strait, during an active ceasefire, without triggering a full resumption of hostilities. The weapon used is not confirmed. The crater at the Bandar Abbas battery site, visible in satellite imagery by mid-morning on May 26th, measures approximately 12 meters across. The radar array is destroyed. The battery is off the air. 02:38 a.m. By 2:38 a.m., the strait is quiet again. No radar emissions from the Bandar Abbas site. The 2 IRGC mine layers gone. The transit lane, for now, clear. The entire engagement from first radar contact to last confirmed impact lasted 27 minutes. In that window, CENTCOM destroyed 2 naval vessels and 1 missile battery, neutralized an active mine-laying operation, and eliminated a SAM site that had been threatening American aircraft for a week. No U.S. platforms are confirmed lost at the time of the strikes. 6:00 a.m. At dawn, the IRGC issues a statement. Its air defense units, the statement says, identified and shot down an MQ-9 Reaper drone. They also fired upon an RQ-4 surveillance drone and an F-35 Lightning II that entered Iranian airspace. The IRGC warns that any ceasefire violation by the U.S. military will be met with a reciprocal response. It calls the American strikes an act of aggression. It does not mention the mine-laying boats. It does not mention the Bandar Abbas radar lock. It mentions only its own claimed success, a downed drone, an F-35 driven back from the border. 09:00 a.m. By 9 o'clock a.m. on May 26th, no commercial vessel is transiting the strait. According to ship tracking data compiled by Bloomberg, the lane is deserted. 6 vessels attempted crossings the day before. Today, the number is 0. The shipping gridlock visible in satellite imagery off Muscat and at the entrance to the Gulf has worsened overnight. Tanker crews anchored in holding positions have been waiting for days. Every hour the lane is closed costs the global energy market in ways that are already being felt from Asia to Western Europe. And yet, on the same morning that the strait went dark, Iranian negotiators in Qatar were in the final stages of drafting a 14-clause framework agreement. The deal, as reported by the Financial Times and Reuters, would extend the ceasefire by 60 days and include the gradual reopening of Hormuz to commercial traffic. Pakistani and Qatari mediators had been shuttling between delegations for 72 hours straight. The framework was close. The phones between Washington and Tehran were open. This is what the Strait of Hormuz looks like in the final hours before a deal. Not quiet, not peaceful. Mine-laying operations in the dark. Radar locks at altitude. Strikes called in on a SAM site during active negotiations. 2 IRGC vessels burning on the surface, while diplomats draft ceasefire language in a Qatari conference room 300 kilometers away. The strait does not wait for diplomacy to finish. Every night, the mines go in the water. Every night, the drones are overhead. And the question is never whether someone will act. The question is only who acts first, and whether anyone on the other side of a table in Doha can move faster than the boats already in the water.